My name is Arin Lindauer, and you're listening to A Life Without Struggle. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 wonderful children, a 2-time best-selling author, and a highly driven and successful entrepreneur. In my 17-plus year career as a mindset and health expert, I know what holds women back from a life you only dream about. Whether you're a CEO, a businesswoman, or executive, I started this podcast because I have been where you are, and I know you want and deserve more out of your life. I believe women are limitless. We just get lost along the way. The process to get you there is the topic and purpose of this podcast. When you understand what you want, you can truly step into a life without struggle. Welcome, and I'm so thankful you're here. Welcome back to another episode of Life Without Struggle. My name is Arin Lindauer, and today we're going to dig into a topic around why we create roadblocks. So the point and premise and where I want to go with this podcast here today is we have a big problem with creating all kinds of madness and chaos and frustration in our own lives. Now, you may be curious as to why I'm saying it the way that I'm saying it, but we are the ones that create our own roadblocks. Now, before you go skipping and stopping where you're at, you got to hear me out on this, because the biggest problem that I see when we're going down a particular journey, and I'm going to call out a weight loss journey, is we keep failing. We keep failing at hitting our goal. We will say that we want something, and then we never actually achieve it. We get frustrated. We feel like we can't hit the goal. But really, we keep creating the obstacles. We keep creating, things that are happening in our life. And the reason why I'm choosing these words so delicately is because when you take personal responsibility for the things that are happening in your life, it's wild how quickly you can achieve things that you never thought were possible. The problem is we can be a victim. We have grown up in a culture and a society that loves victims, right? And so we sit back and we say, man, I can't stack enough days, or every time I get in a good groove, something happens. And here's the thing that I really want to call out, that there's always going to be something. We just have been navigating having our daughter extremely sick. This is probably the sickest I have ever seen our child. I'm very thankful that she's 6 years old, and, I don't feel it's so life or death type of stuff, especially when you have, babies and certainly younger kiddos, and she could at least communicate and tell us what's going on. But it wasn't an excuse for me to not eat well. It wasn't an excuse for me to not get my workout in. My husband and I had to definitely juggle things. And this is where I want to lean into this, that, yeah, I can appreciate that not everybody has the most supportive spouse, or even has a spouse that can help them through things. But on the flip side, it's not their job to make sure you still get your workout in. It's not their job to make sure that you can still eat well. And so the thing that we want to really understand is, if we keep failing, if we keep getting frustrated, if we keep seeing things show up in our life, what's really going on? What's really going on is we've got to understand, okay, how does this stuff keep happening? And now you may be saying, hey, Arin, I didn't ask for this to happen. Listen, I didn't ask for my kid to get sick, right? Everything was going great. I had all these things and, really big things on my plate that I absolutely love, but things had to shift, right? And I think this is where we have to stay so flexible and so in control of our state that even though the bombs are going off in the background, we can still stay poised. We can still stay focused. We can still stay on point, or reasonably on point, that is not going to completely derail us. See, that's one problem that I really, my heart goes out to women when this happens, is we just keep repeating. This is a pattern that has happened your entire life. You get on a healthy trend, everything's going great, and then all of a sudden, a parent gets sick, or a child gets sick, or you get sick, heaven forbid, or you get a challenge at work, or you have challenges with your spouse. Like, listen, that is not a reason to not take care of yourself, but let me pump the brakes on this. I get it. Like, I do understand, but this is where I want to bring some awareness, because even in my life, like, man, I've kind of stepped back and I'm like, God, why did this happen? Or man, this just really knocked me off my socks. I can see why I wasn't taking care of myself. I can see why, I had this or that going on. But when I truly, truly step back, and I can absolutely lean in and learn, even the most devastating things that I feel that I have experienced, I can take ownership. In that time and space, I was not as educated as I am now. I was not as flexible in my state and my emotions and how I respond. And obviously time gives us more lessons, gives us more learnings, but there's a point to all of this is if you keep cycling and repeating and having the same problems over and over and over again, such as you keep trying to lose weight, there's more to the story. There's more to the story as to why do you feel the way that you feel. And this is where I want to go into this even deeper with you here today is, do you know your goals? What it is that you want? Are you very detailed? Do you have a timeline? And the reason I'm saying this is for so many of us, we just say, cool, I want to lose weight, or hey, I want to be quote unquote healthy. That one always, doesn't fire me up because I'm so used to women saying it now, but it's not descriptive enough. What does healthy mean? Because someone, on their deathbed or on bed rest, being healthy might mean that they can get out of bed, right? Or to someone else, it could be, losing 10 pounds. For someone else, it could be losing 100 pounds, right? So what does being healthy mean to you? What is it ultimately going to do for you? Why is it even important? For myself personally, it is important for me to have a high standard of health. I learned from a very, very young age that I didn't have to be a product of my genetics. There's nothing wrong with my genetics, and most of my genetics is 100% preventable. So there's that. And it's important for us to be very educated and understanding, like, yeah, there are some markers. There are some things in your DNA that you are going to have to work through. But here's the thing. That's not a death sentence. That's not a, we can't work through it. It's also every reason why you should actually take care of yourself on such a high level. What's important to me is maintaining a really good body fat percentage. I absolutely love being strong. And what's interesting is if you're always going off of body mass index or BMI, which is height and weight, this is what your doctor is going to tell you, that is not a true indicator of your health. Okay. Depending on how much lean tissue you have on your body. Now, before everybody starts saying, well, Arin said I probably have more lean. No, listen, like if your doctor is saying your BMI is out of whack, it's something to consider, but I would ask you to get more data. So what's nice about having a body fat percentage is you can know, okay, how much lean tissue do I have, reasonably speaking, and how much fat tissue am I carrying? And so here's the thing. Is it perfect? Probably not. Okay. I don't think there's any perfect, tool out there. There's so many variables and conditions between hydration and what you've consumed. And so, but it's nice to have different subsets of data, right? So I think the scale is really important. I also think body fat percentage is really, really important. And then it's really important to understand, where do you want to go with this? For so many women, we are well above 30% body fat, and that is putting you at a higher risk for disease. All all of the diseases, okay? Most women that I start working with or worked with, even all the years in my gym, they were almost always over 30% body fat when they came and asked for help. And so what's really cool is having that data and then getting you under 30%. Even when we can get a woman under 30% body fat, she has lowered her risk for disease tenfold. Then we worked to get her to mid-20s. Most women will be able to hang out mid-20s, 24, 25, 26% body fat, and they can still live a lifestyle that, allows them to do the things that they want to do. A really important way that someone posed this to me is, okay, cool, we can all set different body fat goals, but what are you willing to do? And I think that's going to help tie me into how do we solve this? If we keep creating all these roadblocks in our life, we know our goals, we know what we want. Do we believe in these goals? Are we willing to let go of some old habits? See, this is really everything. We can write goals all day long, but do we understand the emotions that we feel? For a long time, I would set different goals and I had absolutely no conscience about it. Like I would write goals, they were crazy, but here's the cool thing, I always hit them. And I think sometimes ignorance is bliss. When you're young, you're just like, whatever, let's go. And then, you have some life knock you around. You have some things that happen in your life and it can kind of mess with your confidence, right? Not always, not everybody feels this, but I know for myself, I've really questioned some of my goals. Can I really do this? And so that's always an interesting one. And I want to talk through what I personally feel, because I feel like if I can share what I feel and have felt and do feel, like hopefully this can give some insight to how you're feeling, because I'm pretty sure we're all we're not far off from feeling the same feelings. So when you're young, you haven't experienced a whole lot of life, sky's the limit, you go for anything, right? Then when you have some life happen, you have some things that knock you down, I tend to think that we tend to look at things a little bit differently. Well, what if this happens, right? And I think for women too, we're always logically working through all the logistics when we set a goal. And here was a really important point that someone made to me is just write the goal. Have no attachment, have no, here's how I'm going to do it. Just write the goal. What do you want? And I was like, I can't do that because I wanted to think through all the rational ways I was going to get to my goal. And when I was able to really step back and understand what they were trying to have me do, is I was already developing stories as to why I could or could not hit a goal. I'll never forget when we wrote goals down, and I remember the mentor saying, now times 10. And I was like, I can't even compute these numbers. Cool. But what he was trying to do was really break the internal representation that I had of myself. See, we create so many limitations to ourselves, how we feel about ourselves. We set out what we think we deserve. And here's my question for you. What if you let go of all these preconceived notions? What if you let go of everything that you were feeling when you wrote those goals? What if you decided that you could nail this goal and then some? How would you show up differently? What would you do differently? These are questions that I really want you to lean into, because this is what's going to break you free. When it comes to a weight loss goal, it is absolutely possible if you're willing to do the work. And if you keep having roadblocks, if you keep experiencing failure, right? You have to ask yourself, why? Why am I experiencing this stuff? And you have to take the responsibility. Maybe you didn't prep or plan enough. Maybe, it was just a season of life that got really busy. And so again, you probably didn't plan, prep, and have things, or you didn't ask for help. That's always a common one with women. And so you have to really objectively step back and say, hey girl, why? Like, why am I not hitting this goal? I know for myself, I didn't want to change. Change should be easy. Change is actually fun. But I didn't want to change. I wanted to still be able to, hang out on the weekends, play in the pool and have some drinks and, do all the things, eat out, eat at restaurants, not always make the perfect choice, right? And, of course, I'm not going to hit my goal. And I had to really ask myself, hey, girl, what are you doing? And I was living in the moment. I was trying to be free. I was trying to don't care, right? When in reality, I actually really do care, and I care a lot. And, it impacts us on so many levels, because when you're always thinking about weight loss, it just can get so frustrating, so draining, so overwhelming. And there can be a time and space where you don't think about this anymore. And that's what I want to embed in you here today, that what if your head was not filled with, I got to lose weight. I got to lose weight. I'm on a diet. I got to, I can't eat this, can't eat that. What if you would hit your goals because you truly changed who you are? That's what's going to solve the problem, because we create our roadblocks. We're all busy. We all have competing priorities. We all have, different health things, or aging parents, or young kiddos, or grandkids. We all experience, things that can knock you off your course, right? But when you take ownership of those things and you say, you know what, shit is hitting the fan, but I got this. I can still take care of me. Maybe I can't perfectly execute it here today, and probably not tomorrow either, but I think I could still get those steps in. I think I can still eat reasonably well, and it's not going to completely derail me. See, that's where we need to have this flexibility with ourselves. And this is where I want you to understand, this is what you want. You said it, you mean it, okay? You deserve all your results and then some. You know how good you're going to feel. And here's where I want you to take some action, is I want you to start future planning. I want you to think about, how is it going to feel when you're a certain number on the scale? How is it going to feel when the scale, when you're wearing clothes that fit and feel so good? How is it going to feel when you walk in the room and everybody's like, dude, girl, what have you been doing? That's always a good one. Always feels good. So I want you to really plant in your head a visualization of who you are, what you look like, how you feel when this goal is done. It's just done. And I want you, every time you're getting caught up in those feels, I want you to absolutely go right back to that space. However you need to anchor, seeing yourself as the future you that you desire, that you want, that you are willing to do the things all day, every day, no matter what, what storm is going on in your life, okay? Because you're worth it. You deserve it. And you can have it just like anybody else can have it, okay? So many of us are desperate for change, but we're unwilling to take the action. I can't solve all of this here on this podcast. I wish, I really do. But I hope I got you thinking. I hope I got you going, what do I really, really want? What do I really want? What are the emotions and feelings that I'm feeling? What are the roadblocks and things going on in my life? Am I creating those? Man, okay, what can I learn from them? And I want you to really start visualizing this goal just done. Of course it's done. I want you to have every sensory experience of seeing your body ripped, toned, lean, strong, whatever it is that you desire. Because you can hit these goals and so much more. All right. So listen, if this has got you thinking, I'm glad. I want you to join my private Facebook group, Weight Loss and Confidence for Professional Women. And if you haven't already, reach out to me on any social media. It is just my first and last name. Arin is spelled Arin. Last name is Lindauer, Lindauer. Hit me up, shoot me a message, because I know you're curious. I know you're wondering what it would be like to work with a coach. And I think we should jump on a call. I think we should jump on a call and see where you're at, see what roadblocks keep showing up in your life. And can you imagine having someone by your side through this journey? Let's go, girls.